Good morning, DJ and PK. It's 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. Welcome in on a Thursday morning. We're inching closer to game day, and there are so many of us intrigued to see how that BYU-Cincinnati game turns out. Is Cincinnati going to show up? They've lost back-to-back games. They didn't really show up against the Utes. Just pummeled them from the start. And Cincinnati, that Arizona game at home, that is just a massive disappointment. So it'll be interesting to see what kind of team turns up to play BYU. They're at home. The Cougars have to travel. But, man, BYU, after that loss to Texas Tech, they seem really focused and poised. That was an outstanding performance last week as they blew TCU out. So for more on this game, let's go to BYU defensive coordinator Jay Hill meeting with the media as the Cougars prepare for a big game Saturday night with the Bearcats.
The Cincy offense, what does film say about them?
Well, the quarterback's obviously very good. He can run it. He can throw it. I like the way he competes a lot. He's got a lot of weapons around him. The tight end, number 11, is really good. I like the 3 or 4 wideouts that they use. The running backs run hard. So, you can see why they've had so much success early in the year. They're a talented crew and well coached, too. So.
What does Source be? Is he a lot like any of the other quarterbacks you've faced, or is he kind of his own animal?
Well, I'm trying to think. I think he's a lot like Hoover as far as the way he throws it. Last week's quarterback, I love that guy. I think he throws it very well. I think Sorsby is very similar. He throws a really good ball. He is very athletic. He's a little bit more willing to run than some of the quarterbacks that we faced the last couple weeks anyway. But yeah, he's one of those quarterbacks that can hurt you with his feet and his arm. We got our work cut out for us with him, for sure.
How excited have you been from just the progress of the defensive line, the personnel, the depth of the defensive end, and also the interior, how they're playing as well?
Well, the interior's playing outstanding for about 4 or 5 weeks now. They've just been very dominant inside. Any runs and stuff that we've been giving up is hitting more on the perimeter. I can't say enough about how Keanu and JT have played the last couple weeks. They've been outstanding. It's been huge having Nusi and Tausili. Just their pass rush presence the last 2 games is starting to show up. And again, that's not taken away from some of the other guys that have played a lot. Like Logan Latui continues to play at a very high level. Hunter Clegg's going to be a great player, but I see the progression of the defensive line really coming along, and that's part of the reason why we've played pretty good the last couple weeks.
You had high expectations for Keanu when he came here. Has he lived up to that and more, in your opinion, to this point?
Oh, yeah, he's absolutely lived up to it. I mean, in our defense, you want a stud inside that can take on a double team, that can be physical, that can knock things back, and I really think the last couple weeks he's really shown that. It's always new going into a new program and techniques and schemes and all that stuff, but I think he's settled in very well, and he's definitely a dominant force in the defense.
Coach, how does having cornerbacks that can play man real well, how does that help your defense?
Well, the more man we can play, the more we can load the box and, blitz and do some other things. So in this defense, it's very important. And having those guys on the perimeter that can play press man and off man, I think mixes, what the offensive coordinator and the quarterback are seeing. I think that's a big deal. And then if we can mix in our zones with it, I think we become the defense that we want to be. So you got to have corners that can cover in this defense.
And that'll help you against Cincinnati then?
Oh, yeah, for sure. We're going to have to play some man coverage against them. We're going to have to load the box at times. We're going to have to give different looks for the quarterback. All those things that we try to hang our hat on. We're going to have to play games with the quarterback's mind a little bit on some of the disguises he sees. So all those things become important as to what we're trying to accomplish in the game plan.
Cincinnati.
They don't possess the ball a lot. They're one of the lowest possession teams in all of college football. Does that change anything dynamics-wise for you guys?
Not really. A lot of the reason why they don't possess ball is because they score so fast. They're hitting huge 1 or 2 plays and they're scoring touchdowns. They've been pretty dynamic that way. So I don't read into time of possession that much. It's more to me about how many points do they score and the efficiency of their drives.
I just want to get your thoughts on maybe the running back personnel. They're expecting to get their top guy Pryor back. Just your thoughts on that group and how your defense is progressing in running?
Well, I think both running backs are different. Like number 3 is super physical, sees it well, will run downhill and go right through you. And number 6 has got great vision. He's got good wiggle in the hole. I think they complement each other very well, and I think they're well coached. So this is a good running back crew.
Where does the TCU win rank amongst all the performances that this team has had since you've been here in terms of like a complete performance in all phases?
I don't know the ranking, but I was definitely happy with, holding a quarterback that I think is one of the best in the Big 12 to 10 for 23 passing. I think was huge, and to have him throw 2 interceptions and a pass efficiency rating of 93 and all that stuff. I mean, I think that is huge. Just the way we started and then finished the game was big. And I think TCU is a dang good football team. Because if you just look statistically going into this game, I mean, they had played very well in every game. They were in every game, and their offense had done some really good things. So I think it was a good performance against a very good team.
How do you feel like your group's doing in terms of just tuning out the noise of letting outside rankings and things like that distract this group?
Well, hopefully well. We as coaches don't hear the noise too much because we know not to listen to it or look at social media too much and all that stuff. So I don't really know the noise, but for the most part at BYU, we have a pretty mature team that, I think can put that behind them. And it's hard, right? Everyone tells you how great you are, or this could happen if you just keep winning. I mean, they know where they're at. They hear it, but hopefully they're mature enough to handle it.
Any other questions?
Yeah, Coach. How is recruiting been affected by all this success and what you guys have been able to accomplish?
Well, it's way easier to recruit when you're winning. I know that. The last 2 seasons have been huge for us. I feel like we've had really great recruiting classes. We have some really top-notch guys committed to us right now. So I think recruiting just keeps getting better and better. And as we continue to win, and with NIL and BYU and everything that the school represents, I think recruiting is going to continue to get better and better.
All right, there's defensive coordinator Jay Hill. Now let's switch to basketball. Kevin Young with his weekly availability. Here's the BYU basketball coach with the media.
Kevin, all coaches have to at some point enforce disciplinary measures, and at BYU it gets a little bit more complicated with the honor code. What, in general, is kind of your philosophy or approach to disciplinary issues on your team?
Do the right thing, and if you don't, there's consequences, based on our own internal team rules as well as rules of the university. So, I mean, there's nuances to that's obviously a deep question, but that's just my general philosophy of just trying to get these guys to do the right thing. And at the same time, if there's ever a situation that comes up where that's not the case, then we handle it appropriately, and that's my philosophy.
Thank you, Darnell.
Yeah, it looks like I'm the only one here so far. Oh, looks like Pat's here too. Wisconsin has a lot of length, just like they did last year. How will that influence your rotations on Friday, considering who you might or might not have available?
Yeah, I mean, they're a big team, obviously. But at the same time, their style of play, they're not necessarily browbeating you with their size. They do it with their continuity offense. I mean, there's certain things that they try to punish if you switch. They look for some high lows and things like that. So, I don't think it's as big of a concern, as the way other teams utilize their size. But at the same time, size is size, and it's hard. It can be difficult to rebound at times. But then there's also advantages. If we elect to go a little bit smaller, it can be really challenging to keep up with the space and pace and the perimeter attack. So I think there's a give and take. So we'll have to kind of feel the game out. We've studied what happened last year when we played them, given different lineups and so forth, and feel pretty good about having multiple plans of attack.
Just the last one from me about Caba. What's his status as of Wednesday, and what do you expect for Friday?
Yeah, I mean, he's trending in the right direction. Obviously anything that deals with medical, whatever the medical people say, I do. I feel I've gotten good feedback in terms of he is doing better, but at the same time, he's currently still out. So it's more positive than it's not, but it's the situation that he's in is more of a day-to-day type thing.
Thank you, Darnell. We'll go with Jay.
Yeah, Kevin, it's kind of an odd start time, Friday, 2 p.m. Does that cause for concern? How did that come about? Was that kind of out of you guys' control as far as the tip time? And how do you think your guys will respond to that earlier time?
Yeah, it was out of our control. I don't know all the nuances. I just show up and play the game where they tell me when and where it is. I like day games. I'm good with it. I think I also like, as the season goes on, when you have different tip times, I think it's a good preparation for the postseason because you don't know when you're going to be playing and so forth. So, bottom line is the ball goes up, you got to be ready to play, and that's just been the message with our guys.
As far as the UConn game, I'm sure you've analyzed the film. Anything kind of stick out or kind of catch your attention a few days later of maybe what you could have done differently or what you did well?
I mean, I thought to start the game we had some pretty good defensive execution. I think, I think we're a lot of internal discussion about just the lineups, who we're playing. There's always a debate of size versus shooting, things of that nature. I mean, we opened the game up in the second half with, I thought, our spacing, let AJ get to his spots, open up driving lanes for Richie as well. So there's definitely some things we're analyzing there. I would have definitely done some different things with Reed in the post. I thought we gave him too many angles and he just got too many easy baskets. I thought our rim defense was as poor as it's been to start the year, so that's some stuff that I wish we would have addressed a little bit more strongly during the game. But all in all, there was a ton of things we could learn from there, and I think that's more where I go. I'm less about kicking myself about should have done this, should have done that, and more about what can we learn. Even on that last play, I elected not to call a timeout, trusted Rob. He tried to make a play. It didn't go our way. I have full confidence in Rob's decision-making, and, he's a dynamic player, and I really feel comfortable when the ball's in his hands, and we'll do that again moving forward.
Are you...
Go ahead, Jay. One last one. We'll go to Jackson, Darnell, and Sean.
Is the university allowing you to speak at all on the Kennard situation, Kennard Davis, or is it just you're going to just whatever let them handle it as far as through the university's athletic department spokesperson? Is that?
Yeah, I'm going to let them handle it.
Makes sense.
Yeah, it makes sense. I mean, I know exactly what happened, very aware of all the details, but at the same time, I'm going to let the school handle it the way that they've asked me to handle it, and that's for them to be the people that talk about it. If there's a forum where I'm opened up to speak on it, I will. But I think to this point, they've said what they've said.
Safe to assume that he won't play Friday?
I think it's safe, but I also think there's a lot of stuff still being sorted out.
Thanks, Kevin.
Okay, Jackson, Darnell, and Sean.
So in facing a Wisconsin team whose season you ended 8 months ago in the tournament, obviously there's going to be more of a target on your back on Friday, and there's going to be more motivation on their end to probably get some revenge. But what does your messaging change to the team in facing a team that might be a little more motivated than usual, or does that even factor in at all?
I mean, I definitely mentioned it. I try to address the elephant in the room on all things. That kind of being one of them. But at the same time, stuff like that for me, it's like that lasts for like a minute. I don't think you really think about it when the game's being played. But look, I mean, it's a prideful team. They're a good team. They're well coached, and they're going to try to, use the film from last year as both motivation as well as, teaching moments in terms of things we did or didn't do to take things away and so forth. So I think you just have to be cognizant of a team coming in that's probably a little more ticked off, but at the end of the day, you still have to execute the game plan regardless of the situation.
All right, Darnell, and then we'll finish with Sean.
Yeah, Kevin, in the loss to Nebraska in the preseason, as well as the loss the other day to UConn, you guys faced double-digit deficits and came back to make a game of it. What do you take from that? What does your team take from that in a game where you're down and then you manage to find your way back in?
Yeah, I think it's just, you're never out of a game, obviously. I think that's, kind of cliche, but it's true. the game. And what I told our guys in the UConn game specifically, I said, they have not faced any adversity in this game yet. So all we got to do is just find a way to get a little bit closer, and then all of a sudden they're not playing as comfortable. And our guys were able to do that. You've heard me say this before, like every game I believe does have a life of its own, and sometimes it takes a little longer to figure out what buttons to push, both from a coaching standpoint. That could mean scheme, that could mean lineups, that could mean play calls, coverages, and from a player's perspective, like I thought AJ did a good job of settling down in that second half, getting to his spots, playing more under control, not forcing things as much. And so sometimes it just takes a while to figure things out. And, we obviously didn't do enough in a UConn game. That's a game we should have been able to get down the stretch, and we didn't. But definitely proud of the guys' mindset in terms of not being out of it.
All right, we'll finish with Sean.
Yeah, Coach, it's been a couple of weeks since Nate had the surgery that'll keep him out for the rest of the season. Around that time, was there something, obviously he didn't play for you guys, but was there something that you were kind of planning on doing with him that you realized you really missed? And maybe on the flip side, in those 2 weeks, has there been somebody to kind of step up and sort of fill that role that you envisioned for him, I guess?
Yeah, I mean, we had high hopes for him because we really felt like he fit this particular group well, where, we subbed if we subbed Rob out of the game, we felt like Nate could come in, allow AJ to handle the ball a little bit more, be a secondary ball handler, be a really strong defender as well, and then be able to make catch and shoot threes. So there was a pretty clear path for his role. I think a lot of that responsibility is going to fall in Dawson Baker's lap as we are now dealing with the rest here without Nate. I thought Dawson was great the other night, came in, obviously shot the ball well. We have a lot of confidence in him there. I thought he made some really good defensive plays too, particularly in the help position, coming in and stripping the ball out of guys' hands and stuff. So, I think that was it was good for him to play in a big stage, be able to make a big shot. Hopefully he can carry that on. But, yeah, Dawson, I think, would be the guy that's going to hopefully pick up a lot of that slack.
There's BYU basketball coach Kevin Young. Okay, coming up next, covered Cincinnati for a long time, Justin Williams. We're going to hear from him and also Riley Jensen, who joins us every week to talk football. We'll get their perspective on the BYU-Cincinnati game. Those two interviews coming up next. Stay with us. DJ and PK. It's 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. DJ, PK, and we're joined by Riley Jensen, college football expert, and he works in sports performance, mental health, the mental approach to sports. The psychology of it all is so fascinating. Riley, good morning.
What's happening, fellas?
Riley, I need you to assess a bunch of people you've never met. Are you ready?
Yeah.
Cincinnati had a good thing going. Had a 7-game win streak after that opening loss in Nebraska, but they got drilled by Utah. And then they lost at home to Arizona. So do you think they put 2 feet in the ground and their hands on their hips and make a stand against BYU and maybe wreck the Cougars down the stretch here? Or they are a beaten, shattered group and the Cougars are about to go in and run all over them? What do you think? Assess the psychology that Cincinnati is going to bring into this game.
So I think there's some interesting psychology to this. And I remember – long time ago, one of my coaches told me that winning hides a lot of warts. And it's hard to point out that somebody has warts when they're winning all the time. And I think what happened with Cincinnati is for whatever reason they were winning. I think they have a pretty good quarterback. I think they have a really good tight end. I like their running back. They do some really good things. But they're just not quite at the level of competing and winning for a Big 12 championship yet. And so what happens is you win all these games, you get exposed by the University of Utah, then you realize you have all these warts to work on, and mentally that becomes sometimes a little bit overwhelming. And so I guess the long answer to your question is I don't think Cincinnati's quite as good as we thought they were. I think they're a good team. I think they're a team that you have to be smart, and you can't turn over the football, and there's things that you can't do. But I think BYU is going to be fine this weekend. They have the blueprint from the University of Utah. a lot of the defensive schemes that Jay Hill are similar to what Morgan Scalley runs, and I think they're going to be able to replicate that this Saturday.
From the BYU perspective, they're in the exact same spot as they were last year. Last year, they were 9-1, going down to Tempe in the next to the last week of the season, and we know that they lost to a pretty good team. This year, they're going to Cincinnati. It looks, maybe not, I can't identify it specifically as to why, but it looks to me like they are a better team than last year, which then would lead you to believe they have a better chance to come back with the win. How do you assess it?
Well, I think the hard part about going 9-1 at this, point of the year is that everybody's talking about, can you make it to the conference championship game instead of talking about, the Cincinnati game. And there's just a different kind of talk and a different kind of excitement for the team when they're walking through campus, when they're talking to their parents, when they're talking to old friends in the community. Everybody's talking about, can you make it back, and can you beat Texas Tech again? Well, they're not playing Texas Tech this weekend, and they're getting a lot of questions about that. And I feel like that's the distraction. And I know so many coaches on the BYU staff, and I know that they're talking about that, and I know that they're trying to focus these guys on just this week. But that's the danger, right? That's the rat poison that you got to stay away from right now, is that you really do have to play week to week and game to game and situation to situation. So I think I think part of like growing, and why you hear people say cliches that you probably hate, PK, like, you can't skip steps on the way to a championship. You can't skip steps on the way to building a championship program, is that you hope that players that were on the team last year are talking to younger guys and warning them about, hey, we were in this exact same situation last year, and it was really disappointing to finish the season with a loss to Arizona State, and we've got to stay focused, and we've got to do this, and we've got to do that. And that's why veteran teams win more than teams that aren't veteran win, is because they learn the lessons from, and it's interesting because college football is such a short time, but you learn the lessons from just a few years before, and then hopefully you make the next step. And I think that's what Kalani's hoping to do. I think that's what the staff with Aaron Roderick and Jay Hill are trying to do. And I think that's important this week. I think it's really, really important not to get distracted by all the tugs and the pulls that get you pulled away from, like, the task at hand.
I expected you were 0% surprised that when Kalani was asked about style points, that he went straight to, I'm trying to win this game this weekend. That's it. We got to win this game this weekend. That's it. And he wanted no part of that. Do you think that is any consideration at all when it's the coaches just among themselves? I mean, if he throws that out there in public, it's bulletin board material, it's motivating for the other team, it tells his guys they're going to win this game easily. I mean, there's a million reasons he wouldn't go there. He's been saying, stay humble all year long. There's a million reasons not to go there publicly. But privately, do you think they think about style points at all, or are they really just thinking, if we get to 12-1 and win these next 3 games, we're the Big 12 champs and we're in the tournament and nothing else matters?
I think the answer is yes to both, and here's what I'll say: it's really hard as a coach when you're caught up in the weeds and you're in the study of each team every week, and this is like a huge chess tournament every week that you have to prepare for, both mentally as a coach, and then trying to take that game plan and implement it to your players. And for me, when I was coaching on the college level, when I was coaching on the high school level, even at Little League level, it's hard for me to look at another team and not just have a ton of respect for them and have this real unease that if we don't do this and if we don't do that and if we don't do this well, like, this team can beat us. So there is some real truth to what he's saying about, like, this game is all that matters. If they get to the game and they start to play well, I think that he's very aware that style points matter. And I think he will shift from, mid-second quarter, they're up 2 touchdowns, and he's feeling the momentum of the game. He's like, he's going to shift from the mindset of like, hey, we just need to win this game to we need to bury these guys. I don't think this is Kalani's vocabulary, but he would say we need to step on their neck type of thing, where we really need to finish and we really need to send a message to everybody in the Big 12 and everybody in the country that we are a playoff team. So I think both things can be true, and I think he's telling the truth right now in the sense that he has a lot of respect for every team that he plays. He wants his players to have that kind of respect. And then if you have, you know, the situation like the University of Utah lately where they're winning every game by 20 points or more, you go ahead and you put some style points on it.
You have concern that Cincinnati had all these high hopes, right, of competing. They got a senior quarterback and all that stuff. And for most two-thirds of the conference season, they did compete. And then they come out to Utah and get smoked, and then they go home and lose to Arizona. So theoretically, they're still in it, but it looks like it's hanging by a thread. Do you see in that situation where they could just fold?
Unfortunately, in today's world, yes. You know, I talked to maybe, I want to say this like 5 or 6 years ago, I was talking to a player that played for a major program in the country. And he was like, it's really hard to keep everybody motivated once you're out of the national championship hope or hype, because our fan base and our players and our coaches and everybody that's involved with our program is like national championship or bust. And, you know, while Cincinnati might not be a team that is considered national championship or bust, I do think that they had high hopes for their team this year, and I think that quarterback's really good. If I were their coach, I'd be talking about putting your name on every single rep this week, putting your signature on every single thing that you do, putting your signature on everything that goes into the film that's going to show up this week, and helping them to play for not just the pride of the school, but like the personal pride of like, regardless of whether we go to, you know, the Big 12 championship or not, like you need to play for the pride that's your name on your back, your family's name, your name, you know, and really kind of play that up. But there really is a different feel now for teams that are in the hunt for the playoffs, that it's like playoffs or bust. And if you don't make it to the playoffs, it's hard to keep people motivated. It's like, oh, suck. We didn't make it to where we wanted to be, you know?
Totally buy all of that, and I think that's what Ute fans were feeling after the loss to BYU. Well, that's 2 losses. How are we going to get to the conference title game? How can we possibly get to the playoff? Now they're standing here, and it may not break their way, but there is still definitely a path. Whether they get to take it or not remains to be seen. In the meantime, they have been crushing everyone. I think all of us expect them to crush Kansas State this weekend, which seems crazy because we've all seen 5-5 teams beat 8-2 teams, but you don't really have any thought that's going to happen, do you? You expect Utah to win big again?
No, I don't think anybody wants to play Utah right now. I don't think BYU wants to play Utah right now. I think that the University of Utah, if they just have settled into who they are, I feel like they have a real identity defensively and offensively right now. And I mean, my gosh, they are a really good football team right now. I don't see anybody on the schedule, you know, for the rest of the year that's going to give them any problems. Although that's a little bit of a problem for them because, you know, you want to have a good win, you know, towards the end, but they can only play who they can play. And I think there's a real chance for them to get everything that they wanted, even after that BYU game, just because of the way that they're playing. Now, they're not going to get the SEC nod or the Big Ten nod that those teams get with 2 losses, but man, you look at their body of work right now, and their only losses are to teams ranked in the top 12, top 11. And they're really putting together a resume that could make an argument. Now, just like you guys said a few weeks ago when I was all excited about where they were ranked in the college football playoff rankings, I still think that's a real outside chance. But goodness, all you can do if you're the University of Utah is take care of what you can take care of, and then hope you put enough pressure on everybody that makes decisions. And that's kind of a fun position to be in.
Have you seen anything as you've watched Kyle Whittingham in terms of body language, demeanor, or whatever it might be, to think that this might be it? He turned 66 this week.
I think there's people that know him better than I do that would be able to tell you that kind of stuff. I feel like he's had the same body language for like 35 years.
Yeah,
it's hard for me to read him at all about like what he's thinking or where he's going. I know that in his mind there has always been that thought. He was so close to his dad, and he was so close to, he's so close to his family. And I can't remember how old his dad was when his dad passed
64.
away.
64.
Yeah, so Kyle's 2 years older than his dad was.
He's very aware of that.
And that's what I was going to say. I know he's very aware of that. But I think teams like this, get you excited about the possibilities of the future. And it's hard to just say, I'm just going to,
right.
I'm going to ride into the sunset. Because it's like, man, it's so close. I'm so close to being a playoff team and a team that because I know, the one thing that I do know about Kyle is he feels like if he got in a playoff and he had time to prepare for some of these teams, I think he feels like he could beat anybody in the country. And so that's hard. And when you're a person that has, you have to think about Kyle Whittingham. He's 66 years old. He has probably been involved with football since the age of 8 years old. It's who he is. It's what he does. It would be hard to walk away. And there's not very many people in sport. I've actually written an article about this called Sports Will Break Your Heart.
Yeah.
There are not very many people that get to walk away from sport on their own terms. There just aren't. If you really think about it, even the best of the best, the pros, Brett Favre retired how many times, right? And he could have retired on his own, on his own will and merit. And I think it's a hard place to be for Kyle. I don't envy his position. I'm sure that there's some pressure from his family and even some of the coaches, like, hey, man, it's time to hang it up, But there's part of him that's like, yeah, but, man, I'm so close. I've spent my whole life, doing this. Why would I leave something that I'm so comfortable doing and I'm so motivated to do?
Yeah, he's been kicking A and taking names since age 4.
It's probably true.
It is.
He probably resents that because he's thinking, you think I was a soft 3-year-old? What do you mean, Kinahan?
Well, he's told me stories at age 4.
Okay. You just haven't heard the stories at age 3.
I have not.
There was probably a neighbor kid, and someone tried to take a popsicle away on a summer day, and he laid down the law.
So we got into an argument about age 4. He was 4 years old when the Beatles made their
this story. I didn't know this story was
first
tied
appearance
to the 4-year-old
at the Ed Sullivan show.
Uh-huh.
And so I was talking to him about it. I said, "Oh man, how about that?" Yeah, I remember it. I said, "You do know." No, I remember it specifically. I remember it literally where I was, what I was doing. I said, "You do not."
4 years old is a pretty early memory. There's only like a few memories,
right,
from 4 years old.
I know, but he acts like he could paint the picture as if he was in the front row at the Ed Sullivan Theater, which wasn't called the Ed Sullivan Theater at the time, but it is now. No, he actually believes he's got vivid memories of when they took the stage.
I'm not going to argue with him. You argued with him? Why did you argue with him?
Because it's fun. It's what we do.
It's what you do.
He likes a few of them.
Riley, we appreciate it as always. You're the man. We'll talk to you again next week. Enjoy the games.
Love you guys. We'll talk soon.
There is Riley Jensen joining us for his weekly visit. A reminder to join Hans and Scotty tomorrow from noon to 3 at RGS Exteriors at 4235 Farm Road in West Jordan. When we come back, Justin Williams works for The Athletic now. He used to cover the Cincinnati Bearcats. We will hear from him next. Stay with us. DJ and PK, it's time to talk college football with Justin Williams, senior college football writer for The Athletic. Justin, good morning.
Hey, guys. How are you?
Good. Justin, you have some experience with the Bearcats, am I correct?
Yeah, I was on I live here in Cincinnati. I was on the beat for about 5 years during the Luke Fickell years.
So as a senior college football writer, you are now responsible for much more than the Bearcats. But I'm wondering, you're still there. You still know people. You still have some idea what's going on here. Is this a team that is ready to make a stand, and this is the exact wrong time to play them because after 2 losses they're going to turn this thing around? Or is this a beaten up, broken team, and BYU is going to come in here and get it done, and there's no doubt in your mind? And then there's everything in between those two things. Where are you right now as you look at this game?
Yeah, I was going to say this is the cop-out answer, but I think we're going to find out Saturday night, right? Like, that was, a very it's been a great season for Cincinnati overall. If you look at the strides they've made in year 3 under Satterfield, they're going to go to a bowl game. But what a disappointing, disheartening loss that was for them last week at home against Arizona, because just like, BYU, Cincinnati was in position to control its own destiny in the Big 12. And this is still a huge game. Cincinnati technically still has a path to the Big 12 championship game. They can definitely, play spoiler and kind of introduce some chaos if they can get a win on senior night against BYU. But, this could have been a huge matchup against 2 teams with 1 loss, almost kind of a game that if you win, it seems like you're going to get into the conference championship game in the Big 12. And so in that standpoint, it's a little bit disappointing. 2 losses in a row for Cincinnati. I'm curious to see how they come out early in this game against BYU. Are they going to kind of be that team that is just, raring to go and wants to make up for the past 2 weeks? Or is this kind of that late season slide where, man, they had a lot of momentum and now it's just slipped away? I actually think we're going to find out pretty early in that first quarter on Saturday night.
We saw, particularly if you look at like Pro Football Focus and the grades and all that stuff from the secondary standpoint, that it wasn't very good. And I believe Fafita is a good quarterback, and so he has the capability of to do things. What do you think that the defense, particularly in the throw defense, pass defense, will be able to do against BYU?
Yeah, it's probably the weak point for the whole team this season, Cincinnati. And honestly, it's actually improved from last year. They were even worse last year in the secondary. They went out and added some players in the portal and got some pieces, and they have gotten better against the pass. But it's not this team's strong suit. They have not taken the ball away. Kind of their best part of their defense is up front in that front 7. They have some good linebackers, a couple good defensive linemen. And so when you get against teams that especially have a mobile quarterback like Fafita, but can also kind of push the ball down the field, that's, at times where we've seen them struggle a little bit. And, the biggest thing is this team has really leaned on its offense. And I think Arizona did a good job of not necessarily bottling up Brendan Sorsby, but kind of neutralizing it. And so if the offense can't break out and score 30-plus, it's going to be hard for them to win some games. And that's why I think this is a tough matchup against BYU. Not necessarily because BYU wants to sling it around a lot, but they have a good, efficient offense. Bear Bachmeier is really tough, is a good dual-threat quarterback. And then I just think defensively they've been pretty tough. And if you can't go out there and score 32 to 40 points, as the Bearcats have shown this year, they've made it kind of tough to win games.
Sorsby was brilliant through 5 games. Now, in the last 5, he's had 200 yards. One time he did eclipse 200 yards was Oklahoma State, who's terrible. Another time was Utah, where there was a lot of garbage time to pile up some yardage in that game. Is this on the O-line? Is this on him? Is this him being beat up? What has happened? Because clearly the production, or maybe it's just being scouted over the course of the year. There's probably more than one factor. What are they, and how would you rank them?
That last part you said, I do think is interesting in terms of being scouted and also just some of these matchups. This team, Sorsby especially, has really played well against zone coverage, and they've gone against some man-heavy teams the past few weeks. And I think you're starting to see teams play man more against Cincinnati, man coverage, as the year has gone on, because that's just not – it's not Sorsby's, stronger point in terms of zone versus man, but it's also in terms of receivers getting open. They've had a couple guys banged up. Caleb Goody, who's their second leading receiver, was hurt last week. They're hoping to get him back this week. Evan Pryor, their leading rusher, has been out the past couple games. He's kind of a home run hitter, and they could use him in the pass game. They're hoping he can play this week too. So you are potentially getting some pieces back, but I do think you're seeing defenses, watching the film and saying like, man, this guy is really picking us apart or picking teams apart against zone coverage. So he's going to see a lot more man coverage as the year goes on. That's something he has to improve on. That's something the receiving unit, has to kind of get better and create that separation. And so, I'm kind of curious to see. Cincinnati's well aware of that. They even talked about it this week in press conference. It's like, hey, we're getting man coverage. We haven't done as well against that. We need to figure out a way to change that. And so I'm kind of curious to see how that works and maybe what Jay Hill over at BYU kind of draws up to try and neutralize all of that. So Sorsby definitely, he was kind of getting some dark horse Heisman buzz there for a stretch in the middle of the season. That's totally fallen off. He's a really talented player, but they need him to kind of get back to that early midseason form if they want to have a chance to win this game.
Is there any concern that, last year didn't end the way it wanted, but this year they've made improvements? So find perspective in that, and we know we lost a couple of close games, but overall we've had a really good season. So where I'm going with that is that not dig in and win at all costs type of thing, but look at it from a broader, bigger picture, which may lead to some, I don't know what you would call it, but just not the fire to win this week.
Yeah, I mean, it's tough. It's definitely been an improvement on last season. I think everyone coming in was like, they got to get to a bowl game in Cincinnati. There was even some kind of early, like, Scott Satterfield hot seat talk. I don't think that's going to be the case, that they're going to a bowl game. They've obviously made strides. But the problem last year, they started 5-2, lost their last 5 games, right, missed out on a bowl. Now you run the risk of, you lose this game, that's 3 in a row. Could you finish the year on a 4-game losing streak? Even if you're going to a bowl game, like, any of that momentum that you had built up, any of that goodwill you had built up just a couple of weeks ago when you're ranked and kind of in the Big 12 conversation, you lose a lot of that, even if it's an improvement on the season before. So I think, this game would go a long way, even if they don't make it to the Big 12 title game. If you can get this win against, at home, a night game experience, big noon kickoffs come to town, all that kind of stuff. If you can do that against BYU, then you really can look at this season, no matter how it ends, and kind of feel like, man, this team made some strides. It's definitely moving in the right direction. If that doesn't happen, because I think, honestly, that's going to be a really tough task to beat BYU for Cincinnati on Saturday, then you better get that, and the last game of the season at TCU next week. That's when you can't really afford to drop, because then, like I said, all that goodwill and momentum you built up, it's going to feel like it totally went away.
We're joined by Justin Williams. He's a senior college football writer for The Athletic. The updated college football playoff rankings are out, and somebody once said, I think it's a pretty cool saying I've held on to, truth is a big ball, and you can never see the whole thing from any one place at any one time. So we know what people are complaining about the college football rankings here. I can guess what they're complaining about in Miami. Sitting in Cincinnati, when people see the ratings come out, the rankings come out, maybe they think, oh, these are perfect. This is very well done. The committee's very bright. But that doesn't seem to be anybody's reaction. It's biased. They're ignoring something. What's the committee missing from the perspective of people sitting in Big 12 and Big 10 country?
Yeah, I feel like a lot of fans of the committee in South Bend, Indiana, but beyond that, I don't know how many people are like really singing their praises. It's a thankless job, sure, but yeah, I think from a Big 12 perspective, like, this feels like the second year in a row, right, that maybe BYU is just not getting the credit it deserves. And, I get it. The resume is what it is. You can look at the metrics and strength of schedule and strength of record and all that kind of stuff. But, like, BYU has one loss this season to a top 5 team. And, I can totally understand why that's frustrating. And I think from a Big 12 perspective, you have a lot of people saying, like, if this team gets to the Big 12 title game, even if they were to lose to Texas Tech again, like that, to then shut them out for a SEC team that has 2 losses or even 3 losses, or a Big Ten team, that kind of doesn't necessarily seem fair. So that was, I think one of the main takeaways, whether you're watching it in Provo or whether you're watching it across the country, is you're always going to get the accusations of SEC bias or even Big Ten bias. But to me, it's just like, man, this BYU team 2 years in a row, I'm sure is kind of sitting there thinking, what more do we have to do to appease this committee? So
Big Noon's going to be there, right?
Yeah, Big Noon will be there, and then they'll take an 8-hour break or so before the 8 p.m. local time kickoff.
Ooh, that could be dangerous if Urban Meyer's got 8 hours to kill in Cincinnati.
He'll visit his old stomping grounds. He's a Cincinnati grad.
So
he'll find plenty.
He is. Who gets to claim Urban Meyer more, Ohio State or University of Cincinnati?
That's a loaded question, especially here the past few seasons. I think Cincinnati acknowledges that he was a grad, but I think probably Columbus is that's the place that got the national championship. So
there you go. Well, Justin, we appreciate the time. Thanks for coming on, talking a little football with us, and enjoy the game.
That should be a great game. Looking forward to it, and hopefully we get to talk down the road.
There is Justin Williams. We're going to take a break. When we come back, what is trending? The headlines are on the way.